This is Chapter 12, Two Time-Dilated Peaceful Centuries, Part 3, from a story called The Time-Dilated Generations, by Esteban Gallardo. Over time, the distinctions between social classes became more pronounced. At the top, successful artists, writers, musicians, athletes, and influencers held positions of wealth and influence, joined by the business class, who had found ways to capitalize on essential industries without violating the strict sustainability guidelines. One such group, the landowners, had been deliberately built into the system from the beginning, introducing a controlled economic inequality. These landowners did not own physical land. Instead, they owned shares in the hydroponic farming units, the lifeline of every ship. While ownership provided them with a steady energy income, they had no control over farming operations themselves. Food production was tightly regulated by the global government to ensure optimal efficiency and sustainability. Instead, the only power landowners had was in how food was processed and distributed. Some invested in pre-cooked meals, others focused on flavored cereals, high-quality oils, or specialized dietary options. Some even relied purely on branding and marketing, making their products more desirable. However, stringent safeguards were in place to ensure the integrity and sustainability of this vital industry. If an owner mismanaged their enterprise to the point of waste or inefficiency, their stewardship was promptly revoked. The global government maintained vigilant oversight of production, intervening only when incompetence or negligence posed a threat to sustainability. The stark reality was understood by all. Humanity teetered on the brink of extinction, and there was no margin for error when it came to food security. This meticulously structured approach not only guaranteed sustenance, but also cultivated employment opportunities, elevating the hydroponic industry into a cornerstone of both survival and economic stability. Cooks and food processors crafted diverse and appealing meals, ensuring that culinary variety remained a staple of daily life. Delivery workers traversed the expansive ships, transporting these meals with efficiency and care. Marketing teams promoted an array of food options, fostering a competitive environment that drove innovation and quality. Software developers, meanwhile, created custom applications for ordering and managing distribution, streamlining the process and enhancing accessibility. The outcome was a robust economic foundation that mitigated the risk of resource hoarding while fostering an entrepreneurial spirit. This balance allowed individuals to prosper in ways that enriched the collective well-being of society, ensuring that the pursuit of profit aligned with the greater good. While software development thrived across various sectors, the creation of video games emerged as one of the most esteemed industries. However, stringent ethical guidelines were imposed to safeguard the new economy from the corrosive influence of exploitative business models. All forms of gambling were strictly prohibited, including loot boxes, microtransactions, and any mechanics designed to manipulate compulsive behavior. The sanctity of human life was paramount, and entertainment was mandated to respect the well-being of players, ensuring that no individual was reduced to a mere consumer product. Games were encouraged to be exhilarating and engaging, but never at the expense of ethical integrity. This commitment to responsible entertainment fostered an industry that prioritized the enjoyment and welfare of its audience above all else. The only recurring revenue model permitted was subscription-based multiplayer worlds, ensuring the sustainability of persistent virtual environments while maintaining fair business practices. Developers were encouraged to create experiences that appealed to all of humanity, and periodically, certain games achieved legendary status, captivating audiences across multiple ships for decades. Even with these strict ethical boundaries, some controversies arose. On rare occasions, the global administration intervened, banning or modifying games that unintentionally introduced psychologically harmful mechanics. However, for the most part, game developers respected the guidelines, focusing on crafting genuinely thrilling and immersive experiences rather than manipulating their audiences for profit. As humanity fought for survival on Earth, religion played little role in decision-making. The people selected to retreat into the underground base, those who would become the architects of humanity's escape, were almost entirely from scientific and technical backgrounds. The immediate threat of extinction left little room for theological contemplation. Every thought, every effort was dedicated to the singular goal of ensuring the species' survival. For nearly 200 years, as they labored beneath the surface and later in orbital stations, religions persisted, but they held no influence over governance or survival strategies. Faith was a private matter, overshadowed by the sheer urgency of scientific progress. But once humanity found itself aboard the generational ships, things began to change. The constant struggle for survival that had defined life for centuries eased, if only slightly. Though the ships remained fragile ecosystems drifting through an indifferent void, their societies stabilized. Humanity was no longer running, it was traveling. And with this transition came something inevitable, a renewed search for spiritual meaning. The leaders of this interstellar society understood history's lessons well. They knew that suppressing religion expression could lead to dangerous unrest, as had happened in past civilizations. The human spirit, the need for purpose, for something greater than oneself, was just as essential as food, air, and water. To deny it was to invite rebellion. But unrestricted religious freedoms also carried danger. Left unchecked, radical ideologies could spread, destabilizing the delicate balance of their confined societies. A compromise was needed, a system where faith could flourish, but never become a threat to order and survival. Thus, stringent regulations were imposed upon religious leadership to ensure that faith served as a pillar of strength and unity rather than a source of division or peril. Those who aspired to guide others in matter of faith were held to extraordinary standards. Firstly, they were required to be deeply educated in the realities of survival aboard the ships. Every religious leader had to comprehend the scientific and logistical frameworks that sustained their people. This included an in-depth understanding of ship systems, energy rationing, ecosystem balance, and the inherent limitations of civilization. They were trained to respect the delicate nature of their existence, ensuring that faith complemented and enhanced survival efforts. Secondly, they had to embody qualities of empathy, intelligence, and open-mindedness. The selection process was rigorous, ensuring that only rational, level-headed individuals were chosen, those who valued dialogue, cooperation, and reason over fanaticism and division. Extremists were barred from positions of influence, safeguarding the community from divisive ideologies. Finally, upon successfully completing their training, religious leaders could even gain access to the fleet's most classified knowledge, which was otherwise restricted to the 5 main administrators of each generational spaceship. This included the secret societal management protocols. These protocols involved cyclical societal challenges, pre-planned periods of controlled upheaval designed to prevent stagnation and complacency within their confined societies. Working closely with the global administration, these leaders guided their people through these cycles, fostering motivation, adaptation, and long-term social stability. In this manner, religion was not merely tolerated, it was seamlessly integrated into the very fabric of the system, ensuring that it served humanity's survival and prosperity rather than threatening it. Because all 10 generational ships were connected through instant quantum communication, no religion was confined to a single vessel. Faith was no longer limited by physical boundaries. For the first time in history, religious communities could exist as a singular, interconnected whole, stretching across light years. Even with humanity reduced to just 5,000 souls, spread across the void in isolated pockets, several distinct religions took root, flourishing in the shared digital and social space that bound their ships together. These providers of spiritual sustenance filled a deep-seated human need. Just as hydroponic farms nourish the body, these religious leaders nourish the soul, helping those who search for meaning find peace amid the endless night of interstellar travel. For nearly 3 centuries, the system functioned as intended. Even the controlled revolutions unfolded within the parameters meticulously designed from the outset. Revolutions erupted across almost all the spaceships, orchestrated by the global administration to manage societal dynamics. Greed was allowed to flourish naturally, with certain businessmen amassing influence in local governments, exacerbating living conditions for the general populace. The global administration ensured that basic necessities, such as food and shelter, were always met, but deliberately permitted the income gap to widen, fostering social tension between classes. As the disparity reached a breaking point, the common people's diet was reduced to a basic protein soup, nutritionally adequate but unpalatable. Access to remote humanoid robots was restricted, shrinking their world and eliminating the possibility of visiting other spaceships. Some even lost their homes and were regulated to communal residences provided by the global administration for the destitute. While the administration ensured that people were fed and rested, it intentionally cultivated discontent. Revolutions inevitably brought new political factions to power, shifting the capitalist system to a socialist one. Businessmen retaliated with mass media propaganda, sparking conflicts between the populace and police forces during rallies advocating for a fairer system. Although weapons were strictly forbidden and most altercations were unarmed, incidences of violence, including stabbings, occurred. In one such rally, a member of the police force lost his life. The global administration understood the risks of this perilous game, but deemed them preferable to the collective depression that could afflict society over such an extended period of time. This cycle of periodic revolutions appeared to function effectively. Following each upheaval, a period of peace ensued, during which income distribution was equitably restored, narrowing the income gap to a minimum. However, over time, businessmen would again exert influence over local governments to advance their personal agendas, reigniting the cycle of social tension until it reached another breaking point. The system, however, was not without flaws. Inevitably, some individuals succumbed to depression and even committed suicide. The global administration acknowledged this grim reality and, despite the distressing nature of planning for suicides, recognized it as a necessary consideration for humanity's survival. Every aspect, no matter how dark or awful, had to be contemplated. Thus, everything seemed to proceed according to plan. Sports, religion, local and global cultural promotion, tourism, and the cycles of social revolutions, even the suicide rate, all fell within expected parameters. The system exhibited the stability that had been so meticulously planned. Everything began to change when the first spaceship reached its destination, barely 2 centuries after its launch. Over the subsequent 100 time-dilated years, the interconnected society of the remaining 9 spaceships observed with initial hope, and later with horror, the 700-year trajectory of a colonizing population that ascended from prosperity to utter extinction. That was Chapter 12, 2 time-dilated peaceful centuries. Part 3, from a story called The Time-Dilated Generations, by Esteban Gallardo. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next time.